I'm Dr. Jaydee Romick. This one thing could add 7 years to your life. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to George Fox Talks Body. I'm Dr. Romick, and I am here with Dr. Ryan Jacobson, and we are going to tackle one of my favorite topics today, and it can actually improve your life by 7 years if you incorporate this, what do I want to call it?
Way of being
into your life. So welcome, Ryan.
Hey, thank you.
Happy to have you.
Yeah.
So if you wouldn't mind giving just a small, brief intro about who you are.
Sure. Hi, I'm Ryan. I'm a pediatric physical therapist. I'm a professor here in our PT program. I'm a dad and a husband. I'm a lover of living and music and fantasy and magic reading.
I love it.
And yeah.
Okay. Well, I brought Ryan on today because there is one quality or one aspect of Ryan's life that he pursues with so much integrity and vigor, and it's actually a quality or a tenet of your life that can improve your lifespan by 7 years in some studies, and that is discovering and pursuing purpose. And I want to frame this because I don't think people understand how big of a deal it is to have purpose in your life, and we all know when it's lacking. About 70% of us wake up every day dreading going to work or feeling this heaviness of your commute and getting through your day and then coming home and doing it day after day and living for the weekend. It's like we've all experienced this, I think, in some capacity in our lives.
Absolutely.
And not all of us are lucky enough to be living with purpose. But I also don't know that we know it's a problem. So I would love to know, Ryan, why you think purpose is such a big deal.
Wow, that's a big question.
It is.
Just
Why do you pursue it? Like, why do you think it's such a big deal?
I pursue it because of the same reason we always do something is we've seen some evidence in our life that it's worthwhile. It's value. It lines up with who we are. But pursuing purpose, how do you boil that down in a nutshell?
That's hard. I think the evidence says, that 70% of us go to work unhappy.
Right.
But then having purpose, some of the studies coming out of the blue zones, which are the healthiest cultures in the world that live the longest with the fewest chronic illnesses and health issues, purpose is a core part of their value system. And it's called a lot of things. In Okinawa, Japan, it's called ikigai. And it's basically what you wake up out of bed that day pursuing. Like, what is it that gets you excited to live?
All right, so this isn't purpose, but it's related, I think, really closely because what you're talking about is a misassumption among humans that the reason to get out of bed is to get something or feel something really good or be given something, and that's going to lead to like happiness and fulfillment and such. And I'll die on the hill that says actually humans get out of bed and feel those things when they can contribute in the world, not necessarily get things that help drive them to feel these feelings.
Right.
And contributing is about humanity, and it's about connection, and it's about creating meaning and value, and that aligns with who you are as a person. We can dive into some of that stuff, but I think that's what I've discovered through my walk in life and in various jobs, and seeing that when I finally found that I love getting out of bed for work, it wasn't because I was getting everything I needed and getting the advantages or getting off early or not having so much work to do. It was when I was actively contributing to something that really meant something to me and meant something to the people who I was doing the work with.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense because if you think about the normal day-to-day, if we're talking about 70% of Americans aren't happy in their jobs, the amount of money that they're paid, the accolades and recognition they get, the perks of whatever it is their job has, maybe it's more status, none of that stuff ends up being fulfilling. So what you're talking about isn't, kind of the overall, like, what am I going to get out of my work? What am I going to get out of my job? I've got a great benefits package. I get a good 401k. I get a great salary. I can cover my bills. We have a roof over our head. But that doesn't always lead to increased life satisfaction.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So this idea that we're contributing or we're giving back to
Yes.
the world.
So I'm terrible with details, but this was based on some kind of like research into what keeps people satisfied in their work and what keeps them at their work. And it boiled down to there are things that have to be in place so that you don't leave your job. Those things are like salary and, benefits and do I like my work schedule? Things that we call perks, but those are just things that keep us from not leaving. But the things that keep us staying are like the work I'm doing is valued. The work I'm doing contributes to something that I think is important. The work that I do here is done with other people in a way that we create value, that we create those important things that we hold dear. Those are things that make us stay.
Right.
And those are two different things. What makes us stay versus what makes us leave. On the what makes us leave side is when the salary's not enough, right? The classic example is in healthcare. We could keep paying, for example, nurses more and more. But here we are 2 years later with a shortage of nurses who are being paid upwards of $120,000 a year now, whereas a few years back they were making 60 to 90.
Yeah.
So there's never enough of those kind of perks or things, right?
Right.
So what's behind that? Well, they don't feel like they're able to do the work well. I mean, who goes into a job or a career not wanting to do their work well, right? And not wanting to, again, contribute in a way that's valued and that aligns with who they are.
Right.
And so, nurses, my wife is a former nurse and nurse practitioner. She sees us all the time. And now as a nurse practitioner, she has colleagues right now who are wondering, like, can I do this anymore?
Yeah.
And the money isn't keeping them.
Right.
Right. So there's something there that's really tangible. And when you ask me, like, why is purpose so important to me? Again, because having found this perspective on living and employing it in my life, I now love work.
Yeah.
And I seek for work that I love. And I've learned ways to kind of, like, when things weren't aligning so well, to make shifts that still lined up with what my family needs and what I need. So.
Right. I think something that was really eye-opening for me. I saw this study, and I'm blanking on the study, but there were graphs of the amount of time that we spend in certain places or with certain people, and our relationships with our kids, our parents, both kind of peak at a certain point in our lives, and then they decrease. And then time with our coworkers or colleagues actually have a pretty level, steady amount of time that you spend with them. So the amount of time that you're going to spend with colleagues at work is more than you'll spend with your kids or with your parents. Your spouse is another one that kind of increases and then continues to increase throughout the lifespan, especially after you stop working. You better be with somebody that you want to be around because you're going to be with them a long time, as well as the time spent with ourselves, which is going to obviously be the highest because we're always going to be with ourselves.
True.
What really stuck out to me is how much time we spend with our colleagues and therefore at work. So if we have a significant chunk of time that we're not enjoying our lives, it's probably a good idea to align ourselves with things that resonate with our purpose. So my question to you, thinking about, this job outlook with nurses and healthcare providers and others, probably in tech and finance that are unsatisfied with their work, no matter how much they're getting paid, no matter how much their perks are increasing, and that they're trying to be bribed to stay. We'll say that because, everybody wants to keep their employees on. What are some things that we can check in with ourselves, and how can we really make sure that our job is aligning with our purpose? Or if we're somewhere, how can we improve that job satisfaction or that that significant chunk of time that we're going to be at work?
Okay, that's a good question. Because the first thing that will always come to mind is, well, it's the system, right? And it's not to discount that external factors don't bear on this, right? As a sidelight, before I answer your question, I was in a job once where the external factors became so obvious that there would never be a chance to thrive that I had to figure out a way to find a new job. And for sure, that was the right choice. But that took a lot of work to get there because, there's a lot of factors and you can't just say, hey, I'm going to leave my job because it's not working and then expect to find something else. However, a really great mentor of mine said at some point, and then sometimes it's just not there. But that's kind of that, in that kind of framework, that's the end point. And so coming back to kind of your question, it's actually internal. And what that looks like, has looked like for me, has been around integrity of who I'm being and forgiveness, seeking forgiveness, and putting those in the context of what I want to contribute in the world. So integrity is a world of living where I'm well aligned with the core of who I am. I mean, we all know at certain points, like, okay, what am I all about in this world? And there's no right or wrong to that. I mean, we have a lived experience, and the more we're true to that lived experience, the more likely we are to, manifest joy and be able to contribute and feel purpose. So you have to do some kind of work to understand who you are at core. Does that make sense?
Right. Totally.
The second thing is seeking forgiveness, because when there's incongruency, that's a thing. I meant to say incongruencity.
That's what I thought you meant.
Yeah, exactly. When there's incongruence in who you are in relation with others, it makes purpose-driven living really difficult. So one exercise that I was taken through a mentorship type experience I had was to seek forgiveness from people when there's incongruity. I'm going to just keep saying incongruence with our relationship. So it was hard, because seeking forgiveness is to own your part in the problem between you and someone else, or the misaligned relationship, or the event that made that happen. And so the process of seeking forgiveness and owning that then feeds into your integrity. Those create the basis for then understanding who you are in this world and being able to move forward with purpose.
Yeah. Can you give an example of when you want to ask for forgiveness or kind of bridge this incongruity, as you say?
Yeah, we're going to keep saying that.
I'm in now. Okay. I'm invested.
When I was in my mid-30s, working at a job, I was not in a great place of integrity in a lot of ways. I mean, I was fine. I was doing good work as a physical therapist, but I always sought to get off early if possible, right? Maybe that meant if a patient canceled late in the day, I wouldn't seek to find another patient or try to do any more work. I was salaried, so I didn't have to, and I'd go home. I was in a place where I really wanted my free time. And I think I was in a perspective of this job, even though it's a great job and great coworkers, is imposing on me really getting to be who I want to be, or do the things I want to do and have the fun I want to have, right? And so fast forward a little bit from that space to having a mentor ask me if I'd be willing to try this leadership course called The Heart of Leadership. And I'm like, sure, I'll try it. And going there and being asked instead to think about who you're being at your core and whether or not it aligns with what you are and whether it has integrity in your relationships and the work you're doing. A little bit of a breakdown kind of thing.
Yeah.
That changed me. And the first way it changed me is I came back from this experience and shared it with my wife. Our relationship was fine, but it wasn't going well. This different perspective she saw something different in me, because it wasn't, she saw the ew of who I was being, this kind of always seeking for advantage, always seeking for something that gives me a step up about something that I can push off response. I mean, there are all kinds of aspects, and it's hard to share past experiences, but I'm not proud of who I was in that sense.
Yeah.
But no one would have looked at me and said, "Oh, you're being a bad person," or
Right.
But that was work I had to do for myself. It wasn't me saying, "Oh, this was the system making me be like that," right?
Right.
Or my marriage. It's Stephanie who,
Right.
was the problem per se. And so that's a
lot of introspection. That
is that fair?
is encouraging, because I've been there for sure. Even when you show up, you want to put in your work so that you can go live your life. And it's kind of that same mentality that I think a lot of Americans are stuck in, of working for the weekend. I mean, there's a song about it. Everybody's working for the weekend. And if your Monday through Friday is wasted so that you can get to the weekend, or it's not fulfilling, that is a huge chunk of your life that you're not enjoying. So that's why I think purpose gives us so much more of an improved life expectancy, is because if we're actually enjoying every day,
right,
we're fulfilled, we're in relationship that, gives us, shared value, and we're not lonely, and we have this kind of just higher purpose to life. I think that's where the life expectancy.
Well, so here, let
happens.
me share what I learned about myself then.
Yeah.
Because since that era, which might be in my mid 30s, I've loved work every day. And it's been in multiple workplaces. And what I learned about myself is I need to be in a space where I can have creativity. I need to find roles where I can help other people, or create space for other people I'm working with to do better work on their own, or to grow in some way.
Yeah.
Like I love being involved in collaborative mentorship. You and I have been involved in collaborative mentorship for years, and I just grow so much by it, and you grow so much by it, and so that really fills me, right? And I love being eclectic. I'm not like a deep specialist, right? I'll never be that PT professor who is the foremost expert on some pediatric application of a treatment, right? Like I having things all around. I know this about me, right?
Right.
And I like pushing boundaries in making things better in healthcare, or pushing boundaries in how we work as teams in order to collaborate to give better patient care. Like I like kind of pushing to the front edge of things. And I know this about me.
Yeah.
I like being around people who want to seek high level things with me, right? But I also like being around people who don't know where they want to go yet, and being a part of their journey, hence students who want to be PTs, being part of their journey to grow and who they're going to be as leaders.
Right.
And all that lights me up, right?
Yeah.
And so that's what I do every day.
Yeah. So I'm sensing this theme of understanding your values.
Yes.
There's an exercise that I went through with my health coach, counselor, whatever you want to call it, of just discovering your values. And Brene Brown has this amazing worksheet. So if you go online, you can Google, Brene Brown values worksheet. And she has this whole list of values that you circle if they align with you. And then she really tries to boil it down to like your top 2 values, which is for me extremely hard, because I'm like you. I have so many things that I love and want to pursue in my work. But I think understanding your values is critical in continuing to discover your purpose, because you know what you're all about. So this kind of gets me to the point in my show where we talk about the top 3 tips of, what tangible things can we give people to find their purpose? Maybe they're in that place where they are dreading getting out of bed in the morning. Maybe they can't quite quit their job. So, what's a realistic time frame, or what are some realistic exercises or practices that can get them feeling like they're pursuing purpose and they have more meaning in their life?
So we should try to lay some out.
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah. If you have 3. If you want to go rogue and do 5, if you want to say, no, forget that, I'm going to do 2.
Okay.
I'm here for it.
So I think we talked about this. There are 2 different perspectives. One is, do I have the flexibility to kind of change something major about my work life, let's say?
Right.
Versus, no, I kind of need to be in this job and it's not great right now, or this path I need to be on for a while. So how do I do this within the context? So the first one that really works for me, and I do this 2 to 3 times a year, is when there's a pause in the general flow of life, like Christmas break or spring break or something. I take time to find, kind of like you, find a space outside my normal places I am and dig back into where I'm putting my time. And so I'll kind of lay out, okay, where's my time going as far as work and life in general? And I look at those things and I decide, are there things that no longer kind of are really firing me up, that really align with the purpose and the work as I've moved forward? What would be an example? A couple years ago, I was involved in a lot of research related to a topic that now is kind of like not where I want to put my attention.
Yeah.
And so I had to look at that and say, okay, having stepped back, how do I bring that to completion?
Yeah.
Right. I'm not just going to walk away from that, because that's not high integrity. I'm not going to walk away from those people I'm working with, but I have to figure out a concrete plan to kind of phase that out.
Yeah.
You know, maybe that takes a month, maybe that takes a couple months, whatever. But I do that regularly because, like you, I'm like all over the place. So if I'm a listener right now and I'm thinking, yeah, I've got a whole bunch of things and many of the things just aren't lining up with what I want to be about in this job, you kind of need to separate yourself from things, get in a space and see what those are. Decide that I'm going to stop being a part of that, or I'm going to stop contributing to that. And what does it look like to stop in a way that has integrity? Yeah. So that would be my first.
That's great. I love that. And I think about the amount of people that don't take their vacation days. And I'm a big encourager of, you know, you have to go out and do things. You can't just work your whole life. Even having a day that you set aside for yourself, for your own mental health or your own well-being. This is one of those times I would probably take a day off, go somewhere that is inspiring to me, or if it aligns with a break. If you do have a break in your job, many people don't. They don't have a Christmas break or a summer break or a spring break. But having a day that you take off for yourself to reconnect with yourself and to figure out these things that you're talking about. So if you don't have a nice break, take one. That's what I would add to yours.
Yeah.
But
absolutely. It's worth the 8 hours of PTO.
I think so.
100%.
Yeah. So anyway.
Okay. What was another one we talked about? Because I'm blanking.
I know. No, I am too.
We had great ideas before we
I know.
started
Caleb,
talking.
do you remember any of the other ideas that we just talked about?
Be willing to abandon something with integrity.
Okay, so we kind of touched on that.
Yeah, we touched on that a
so
little bit.
I kind of combined it into two, because there's the one tip about just creating space and getting, taking that PTO or that time to get away and reappraise. But Caleb used the word abandon. It's one of my favorite words, like to abandon something that I've been doing on behalf of being something new that I could become, to better myself and to better the world. Yeah. That appeals to me. Yeah. And so
that's hard to do.
It is.
We're all about habits, and we get in our routines, and abandoning stuff is scary.
It's not only scary, there's people involved in abandoning things, and there's valuable work in the things you're doing that just aren't lining up with you. But this is about alignment. Like purpose is about lining up with who you are. Right. Not lining up with what you think you should be or what others think you should be. Right. And so if I'm in a job that I just don't like, there's still opportunities to find how I express who I'm going to be. It might be with another individual, or it might be with a side project that I could be involved with at work. But again, you have to let go of something, because there's just not infinite space, time, or energy, or heart, or love, or ability to contribute all the time. Yeah. And so it is okay. Like if you walk away from this podcast with one thing, it's okay to let go of something that still has value and that others think you should be doing. Right. If you don't necessarily think you align with it. Walking away with integrity is the key. Integrity meaning I'm going to steward the relationship. Hey, Jaydee, we've been doing this work together for a long time. This is kind of where I'm at right now. What can I do to kind of like extract myself from this, but make sure that all the work that is so important to you is still taken care of? Yeah. That could be with a coworker, a boss, or another person. Yeah. But that's abandoning with integrity. Like you can't just cut ties and walk away.
Right. That communication and that
stewardship
of that good work that you're doing. Right. I think is really powerful. Did we come up with the third one?
I think so, but only Caleb knows it now.
Okay.
How can I contribute to other humans who I am around?
There's the question. So maybe use the word contribution even more than inclusivity.
Yeah.
Was that incongruency?
Incongruency.
Incongruency.
Yes, that was it.
All that. All right. So what does it mean, contribution? I said this before. Humans don't seek to be helped. They don't seek to be given to. They don't seek to get things to feel better. We find real joy and purpose in living by contributing.
Right.
So sometimes it's easy just to go hop to a new job. Sometimes it's easy to hop into a new social situation. It's not so easy to leave a family, but
Right.
When you're within some place that isn't lining well and you're not getting that joy and fulfillment and stuff, you might look for places and individuals who you might contribute to more. Maybe it's a coworker who you could offer something to help them level up in their work, right? Or maybe it's you're in a social situation in communities that you're within, church or otherwise, where someone you've made a connection with, maybe double down on what they're all about.
Right.
And how can you create space either through resources you have or ideas you have or just being in relationship with them, create space for them to grow into the next place.
Yeah.
That is huge for purpose. And I'd again die on this hill that we tend to forget about the humanity of being human in our work.
Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah. I mean, we have a lot of stuff to do in our work. We have a lot of productivity to meet. We have a lot of tasks that we have to get done. We have a lot of lists that we need to do. We have demands from people we work for. We have demands from people we work with.
Right.
How well are we taking time to see the other human in our interactions, to pause a little longer, to contribute a little more in that, and maybe de-emphasize making sure we check off all those things, or making sure that everything that's being asked of us happens, in such a productive, meaningful way.
Wow.
That humans and relationship are kind of what we're doing this for.
Yeah. It's amazing when you zoom out and look at the other human. I actually remember our program director and I were having a discussion, and he said, "How was your drive in today? What was your headspace like?" And it made me take a step back because it was a human seeing another human. And then I asked the same question. I said, "How about you? Where are you right now?" And it gave us an opportunity to be candid with our own headspace, because we forget that the human overlords that are telling us what to do, they have demands and they have a life as well. So my encouragement is that as well, is just connecting with humans, being empathetic, because we all have a similar experience and we're all a lot more alike than we think. And we all get improved life satisfaction from the same things. Having purpose is one. So that's a good way to look at it. Well, thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
I really appreciate it.
Yeah.
Is there anything else you'd like to share with our listeners today?
Oh, wow. That's like the open-ended question that
I know.
I'm supposed to pull out something brilliant.
Maybe if there was a billboard on the highway that said one thing that you'd want everybody to see, maybe it pertains to this topic, maybe not. Wow. What message would you like to get out there?
I really, really align with possibility. Like, I want to be in spaces where anything's possible.
That's cool.
And promote that. So my billboard would be embrace possibility.
I love that.
And that there's a lot behind possibility.
Yeah.
And when we're not feeling purpose, then we don't feel possibility.
Yeah.
So
It's beautiful. Well, thank you for sharing. Thank you for being here and
thanks for having
taking
me.
the time. Yeah.
This video podcast is a production of George Fox Digital. To find more material like this, you can subscribe to George Fox Talks on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever else you listen to podcasts. Our team really appreciates your feedback in the form of likes, comments, and reviews, and we'd really love to hear what you think. To sign up for our weekly email list and to keep up to date with the latest episodes and publications, you can check us out on the web at georgefox.edu/talks. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you in the next episode.